You have made it through 3 weeks of NFL team previews. Today, it's the Los Angeles Chargers. Where you at, everybody? The Chargers, number 12 of 32 of our team previews. I am Jim Derry. This is the Dattitude Podcast. Well, it's actually bet.nola.com, powered by the Dattitude Podcast, but you get my drift. What do we think about the Chargers? We think that they had maybe the most depressing end to the season last year than anyone else. And that, I mean, how could they do that? How could that happen? They were 10-7. They had a 27-0 lead in the wild card game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they lost. Of course, that's a big part of this preview. You can't talk about the future without talking about the past. We'll try to get through it quick, Chargers fans, and tell you why they'll be better in 2023. Or maybe we won't. But whatever we do, it's coming up next. Okay, Los Angeles Chargers time, and I promise, by the way, I didn't mean to wear Chargers colors. I just so happens that that's what I had on today, and then I started thinking, maybe in the back of my mind, I still feel bad for him, because, I mean, you kind of do. And when we do our written previews on the site at bet.nola.com, we like to start out with last season in a nutshell, and this one starts like this. The final 34 minutes and 25 seconds is the only nutshell you need to know about this team. Woo! 27-0 lead over Jacksonville with 4:25 to go in the first half. AFC wildcard game. A chance to get that bugaboo off their shoulders. They were going to go to the divisional round, but in their first playoff win since 2018. Just the second playoff win since 2013. Just the third playoff win in nearly 20 years. And they were about to do it, but it didn't happen. So much has been promised since bringing in Brandon Staley. First off, I'm not the biggest Brandon Staley fan on the planet. Anyone who's listened to me at all knows I hate the analytics coaches, and there probably is no bigger user of analytics than Brandon Staley. 4th and 3, if it says 51% on the card, you go for it. If it says 49% on the card, you don't go for it. This is a guy who doesn't seem to use any gut whatsoever. So what have the Chargers done? They have made some changes, and specifically on defense, they have a new defensive coordinator in Derek Ansley, and Ansley is just 41 years old. Kind of goes with the theme of the Chargers, right? They're getting younger and younger, or trying to get younger everywhere, at least in their coaching staff. Because will that make a difference? I don't know. They have a new quarterbacks coach. It's a name some of you know, even around the area of New Orleans, which is where we're based out of, hence bet.nola.com. You know Doug Nussmeier. You remember him? How old are you? Doug Nussmeier is a former Saints quarterback. Oh, you're not that old. You're a young guy. What about the LSU Tigers? Garrett Nussmeier. Yeah, that Nussmeier. That's his son. He is the quarterback's coach. He will be working with Justin Herbert. What will he do to make Justin Herbert any better? Well, you know what? Herbert was pretty good for most of the year. He threw for just shy of 5,000 yards. In fact, I think it was 260 or so yards shy of 5,000. The problem was the latter half of the season, he started to tail off a little bit. And in fact, the last 5 games of the year, including that playoff game, he did not throw for 300 yards once. And if you look at these numbers on the screen, that is the MO of these Los Angeles Chargers. Look, they were, third in the league in passing and 30th in the league in rushing, which some of you might be surprised because they had Austin Eckler. The problem with Austin Eckler was he didn't do much out of the backfield. He only gained 900 yards, and you say only. Well, I mean, now that you're playing a 17-game season, that just isn't that much. He scored 13 touchdowns, which is great from the running game. But you got to be able to rush for more than 900 yards. I know a lot of fantasy owners were probably a little ticked off. So what will they do any different? Maybe nothing. But the thing is, if you're not going to do anything different, if you look at these changes, and we had to struggle to find both a third player to put on the top newcomers and the top key departures. I mean, I never have to struggle to put anyone there. In fact, I wish I had 5, 6, 7 spots sometimes. For the Chargers, they didn't change very much. They still have basically the same team. You look at the rest of the offense. Keenan Allen, everybody loves Keenan Allen if you have him on your fantasy team. That is until he gets hurt. Keenan Allen seems to get hurt almost every year, but when he's in there, he's one of the best fantasy receivers in the game, and he's one of the best producers on a football field in the game. Mike Williams, pretty much the same thing. When he's playing, if he were to play 17 games, he'd probably catch 14 for 1,400, 1,500 yards and have about 12, 14, maybe 15 touchdown receptions. But they just don't stay healthy. So what did? They went out in the first round and they got a receiver, Quentin Johnston. And, Quentin Johnston, by all accounts so far in preseason, is taking a big step, is going to be a big part of this offense. But here's the thing. You don't want him to be too big a part of your offense early on. You want him to grow and have a chance to become a number one at some point in his career, early in his career, maybe 2 years from now. But you don't want it to happen now. You got to keep Keenan Allen healthy. You got to keep Mike Williams for this team healthy to be any good. Defensive side of the ball, again, not many changes. You look at the numbers. They were 7th against the pass. They were 28th against the run, which means 20th overall. This team is going to beat the Chiefs, which they were not able to do last year, and they haven't been able to do 15 out of the last 18 times they've played them. If they're going to beat the Chiefs, they've got to be better than 20th on defense. And I get 7th against the pass, but Patrick Mahomes can do it any kind of way he thinks he needs to do it, and they will. Joey Bosa had a wonderful season last year, and he kind of came back. He has had injury troubles in the past. That seems like a recurring thing with some of these Chargers, right? He's got to have to step it up along with Khalil Mack. And those two guys, Bosa and Mack, will have to be better against the run. They have to be able to stop the run. 8th toughest schedule in the NFL. We talked yesterday about Vegas' schedule, which I believe was the 5th toughest schedule in the NFL. But the thing about the Chargers, which is inherently different from the Raiders, is the Raiders have a brutal opening stretch of 6 games, really 6 to 8 games. This schedule can be got, especially early on. Miami at home, at Tennessee, at Minnesota, against Vegas before the early bye week. Everybody hates that week 5 bye week. But you look at this stretch of 4 games, that is LO. None of those teams are super easy. You could argue whether you think, we predicted Vegas to go 5-12. Okay, call that one easy. But the thing is about this schedule is this is a stretch where they could start off 3-1. At least. That potentially could go 4-0. There's none of those 4 teams they can't beat. We don't know exactly how good Minnesota is, and we're going to get to them in a couple weeks here. And then the primetime stretch starts. They have 6 primetime games, including a Saturday tilt against Buffalo towards the end of the season. But Dallas at Kansas City, that's brutal. Get a break with Chicago on a Sunday night. Then you got to go play on a Monday night and play Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. You look at the back half and more games they can win. At New England, Denver, at Vegas. Those are 3 games they certainly could win before they finish off with Buffalo, at Denver, and then Kansas City. Man, if they want to win 11 games and win this division, you got to figure they got to get to 10 wins before they play Buffalo. It's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. So I guess it's drum roll, please, kind of time. What do we think about this Chargers team, and what are our best bets? I think 10-7 is probably about where they are. Now, if they get off to a super hot start and maybe they're 5-1 or dare I even say 6-0 or something like that, then maybe. But they're going to have to start off super hot. If this team isn't at least, 3-1 that first stretch before the bye week, we talked about it, then they play Dallas. They're not at least 3-1. If they start off 2-2, you can just write them off. They're not going to make a comeback. And I just don't think this team is going to be all that much better. But here's the thing. I think at plus 300, if you're going to give me 3-1, if they played this schedule, everyone plays their schedule 3 times. We told you about Kansas City, and I think they're going to take a step back. I'm not saying that Kansas City isn't going to win the division, but I think at 3-1, it might be a value because one more win for this team, 11-6. If this team can get to 11-6, they can win this division because I think that there's a realistic chance that Kansas City goes 10-7, or even at 11-6, maybe the Chargers win a tiebreaker. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Guess who's coming up first next week, boys and girls? The NFC East. We start it next Tuesday, and it is, with indeed, Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see you next week. Everybody have a great weekend.